5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And it's live.
This is Leicester Till I Die TV. Watch and subscribe on YouTube and listen on your podcast platform.
Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, good night, good day, goodbye, hello. You know, one of those will apply to you wherever you are in the world. Welcome along. Got over it yet? Got used to it yet? I think there's more to this than planned, you know. And I'm going to be discussing this with my with my co-host tonight, Roxanne. I have just seen the name. I'm sure he will explain all. I'm just waiting for him to finish off with his latest customer, and we'll bring him in. But we are going to be looking at Jame Vardy. We're probably going to be doing this for a couple of weeks, but let's be honest with you, it's going to be more exciting than the football. Stefan Mavrodidi out for the rest of the season. So we've got 5 games to look forward to with AU on one wing and Dakova Reed on the other. Wow. But we're going to be talking Jame Vardy tonight. Let's bring Roxanne in and let's have a look at his favourite 11 Leicester City teammates. Good evening, Roxanne.
Good evening, Chris. You can't afford me. Don't even think about it.
Luncheon vouchers?
Oh, go on then. Luncheon me, actually.
You better explain to everybody why you're called Roxanne tonight. And that's not me.
It's because I was trying to get some natural light in the room, so I decided I'm going to sit in the window. The sun is streaming through in sunny Leicestershire, between the clouds. So I thought I'm sitting in the window. The red light is on. Best get my professional name out. So,
nice over there in Amsterdam, is it?
It's lovely. Thank you very much. Thanks for asking.
That's all right. And I'm going to say, if it is nice out, will you please put it away and concentrate on the show?
I shall indeed.
Good. I apologise. I've still got this damn cough. I have not seen my granddaughter yet because I don't go around while she's obviously only just been born. Her immune system is non-existent at the moment, and it's killing me. But this cough has just gone on now. It's a week and a half, and I apologise. If I laugh, it makes me cough. And I'm with Craig tonight, so I should be all right. But I will apologise if I do laugh. Look, we are talking. We'll say a few hellos in a minute. Hey, there we go. If he's trying to kill me off now, that's what it is. Just anybody watching, do you think his glasses aren't exactly straight? Yes. Welcome to Tiswas. How are we doing? Look. Jame Vardy, he's gone. I don't think that this was a sudden announcement. I mean, when you look at everything that's come out in a very, very short space of time, he's done videos, he's announced his 11, he's put specials together for the club. this has been a while in the making, hasn't it?
I think so. I thought exactly the same yesterday when he was walking around the pitch. And was I right in thinking it seemed to be dark when he did that? He's put out, there was a 20-minute so video I watched last night on YouTube. I don't know if you've seen that one. That it was him talking about, well, not necessarily him, but the guy doing the media for Leicester City, talking through his favourite goals.
And where he was on the pitch.
Yeah.
Yes.
But yeah, and I thought even in the background they got the graphic up that had been designed.
Yeah.
So the one or two things, someone's not telling the truth here, or Rude was the last to know, because when he said he came and told me yesterday, either that or they're really, pretty damn hot at getting all this stuff prepared. But he said, "Oh yeah, he came and told me yesterday, and we had a long chat or whatever." I'm thinking maybe you were the last to know, because all of this has been going on in the background with them preparing all this statement. That photo shoot wasn't thrown together.
No, it was very.
And to be fair, what a fantastic photo that is! Him sitting in front of all those trophies. That says it all. And I think the Times used it as their back page, or the top half of their back page this morning. With a quote, "Not bad for a kid from non-league."
Well, can I just say? I mean, people have used that a lot in a lot of different ways, and I used it myself yesterday.
Yeah.
Oh, Harry. It's true though, isn't it? When you look at what he's got, and Harry would just have to put a few boots up there. But yeah, it all looked very, very contrived. It hit me when I think he was being interviewed, and they had when they got the big TVs up that they hang from the top of the stairs, and that was up there, and it was up, like you say, and they'd got the graphics design. It's almost like, when the Queen Mother and the Queen died, they've got a plan in place.
Yes.
And obviously the guy's not dead, and I wouldn't wish that on him, but it's just a little bit. I don't, when you said somebody at Leicester City isn't telling the truth, well, I nearly fell off my chair.
It is a shock, I know, because usually they're very open with all this kind of stuff. But the one question I would like to know is whether it was his decision or whether we told him that we weren't offering him a new contract, and then this way makes it sound like he's chosen.
Well, again, there's so many narratives out there, in as much as I've read somewhere that there wasn't an option of a new contract. Then you've got Ruud van Nistelrooy coming out and saying, if it was down to me, I would have given him another year.
Yeah.
Now, I put that out earlier, and I'm thinking, Enzo gave Vestergaard a 3-year contract. 3 days later, he was gone.
Yeah.
So is this the fact that nobody's told Ruud van Nistelrooy he's going? Because he thinks, well, I'm going to offer Jamie a contract. And they've come along and went, oh, no, you're not.
Or heaven forbid, they've learnt and they've decided, it doesn't matter what the manager wants or says, we're deciding now. We're deciding the players. We're not going to get caught again by somebody saying that they want someone. And then disappearing or whatever, for whatever reason. Because, yes, we could sack Ruud, but he could also walk away. If those talks, whatever those talks are, don't go the way that he likes, he could walk away. And a lot of it is about saving face and getting as much money as possible if you do walk away. So, I don't know. There's so much going on behind the scenes. Where's Amazon when you want a behind-the-scenes documentary?
I know. Oh, they may be doing one because they have to film a season before they put it out. So that would be a blockbuster, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, and we will get onto his team in a minute, but obviously there's a lot just to sort of try and catch up on. And I know we've talked about this before. Because I don't think you particularly think the manager should choose the players.
Well, I think that the club has to have an overall identity of how it wants to play and what the club's identity should be. And then that has to be followed through. There's no point teaching all your kids a certain way to play football in terms of formations, the way they move the ball through the sections of the pitch, all this kind of stuff, the transitions. And then when you get to the first team, it's totally different because it changes determined by whichever manager you decide to bring in, whether it's Cooper, whether it's Deitch, whether it's a guy from Southampton, whatever, who all want different ways. You've got to have an identity. In my mind, in modern football, if you are planning on bringing through your own talent, you have to have an identity of the way that you want to play, and then you pick the manager, the best manager, to continue that forward.
We are all turning into little mini Mannies, aren't we here? Because, yes, I agree with you that, and it's something the Manny said as well, is that you have, and in fairness, that's what Enzo was trying to do, and in fact implemented, was that everybody plays his way. But then the club itself should say, right, this is the way we want to play. This is why we got you in, Enzo. Then if Enzo goes, all right, it was a surprise, but it shouldn't have been a surprise because a club like Leicester have always got to accept that at some point they may lose a manager if he does well. That they should have had a list of people that played like Enzo, or had his thoughts ready to approach if anything ever happened to Enzo. And to then, and this is the problem, I think, when you then go and get Steve Cooper in, and look, there's discussions about and arguments about that we were waiting on Potter and all this, that, and the other. But you're changing from type, plan A to plan B, and then you're just starting all over again, aren't you?
Yeah. I mean, we did the show the other night with Rob Tanner, who seemed to clarify that we were waiting for Potter, and we just ran out of patience in waiting for him. There was an offer on the table, and he was umming and ahhing, and it got to a point where you've got to buy, you got to look at who you want. Maybe we should have waited a bit longer and just brought Cooper in on the last day when he couldn't buy Ayew and Bobby de Cordova-Reid and Edouard and all that. Maybe we would have been in a better place. Just work.
I don't think he would have done, in fairness. As bad as he is at West Ham, I don't think he would have done that.
Yeah, but so I think I have been saying that for quite a while, because I think we have to go down that route. We're never going to be a club who can throw the money around, particularly under the PSR. If they threw that out and something different came in, then King Power may say, right, okay, we've got the money, we're just going to we're going to throw more money at it. But you can't at the moment, so you have to produce your own talent. And they need to have a style of football to follow all the way through, and we're starting to see it. Kids getting in on the bench, or under 18s and under 21s are having decent seasons. So it's working. We've talked a few times about, as the training ground of White Elephant. Well, I think we're starting to see now that there is probably more talent coming through than we've had for quite a while.
I mean, I remember saying to you on the show a while ago, is this the biggest white elephant in football? Maybe it's not. I will admit when I'm wrong. It doesn't happen often, but I'm big enough to admit when I am. That maybe it has taken, as you were alluding to, a few seasons for it to work its way through. If you plant a tree, it doesn't sort of fully grow in 1 year. And maybe next season, if we do go down and end up with a transfer embargo, we'll have to use the youngsters, and that might not be the worst thing in the world.
No, I think in an ideal world, we'd all like to see it. It may mean that we're down there for 2 or 3 seasons. We might well be anyway. But these kids, have to toughen up, because pro football is a lot different from when you're playing the younger kids all the time. But I think the only real people who are around for the life of a football club are the fans. The next ones are the owners, and they're going to be there longer than any manager. So it doesn't make sense that your way of playing, your identity comes from a manager who can be in and out, in 6 months.
Yes, yeah. If we don't come up, I don't know necessarily whether that's a bad thing. I mean, like I think I said, I spoke to a Leeds fan who was saying, and can I just say hello to that Leeds fan that took great delight in posting on the video the other day, predicting. I forget what he said now, but basically, we obviously live in Leeds fans' heads, and accused us of breaking up and what have you. I mean, I don't think we were going to sack our manager when we got promoted, were we?
No, that would be interesting, wouldn't it? And who was it that they're being linked with? Oh, Mourinho. That's it.
They're more likely to get Steve Bruce, let's be honest with you, at Leeds, aren't they? But this is a sensible Leeds fan that I know, and he was saying that not having come up, they got rid of players that they could afford, that they could get good money for, that didn't want to be there and wanted to move, and they're probably going to do better for coming up. A bit like we did. I know it was the Great Escape, but when we didn't do well against Watford, the next season we broke every record going.
Yeah, I mean, you're more experienced. The team have longer to play together, to gel together. It is about, how many players can you hang on to, or how many do you want to hang on to, and how many these days, how many can you shift on and move on? And we said a few weeks ago, one of the discussions that Rude will be having will be, will you allow me to get rid of some of the players that I don't want, even if it's at a loss?
I hope he's not. I hope the discussion is just, do you know which door to leave by? But we will see. We will see. This will all come out in the wash over the next 5 weeks. Certainly, the rumour that he was going to go once we got relegated hasn't happened, unfortunately. But
no, and I'm sure we'll have many debates whether he stays, whether he goes, on who it should be. But I'm not inspired by the list as we see it at the minute. But
no. Hang on,
talking of inspiration.
Yeah, there you go. We could be sponsored, of course, by the Clash. Should I stay or should I go now? Boom, boom. But let's have a look. Jame Vardy, like I say, in this whirlwind 24 hours since he decided he wasn't going to re-sign, or we weren't going to re-sign him, or he didn't get a chance for Rude to offer him an extra year. It's amazing what you can do in 24 hours, isn't it? Mm-hmm. He picked his all-time Foxes teammates 11. Interestingly, and I'm sure a lot of people have seen this, but Ray says, I've noticed there are no very recent teammates on Vardy's list.
No, that's basically the league-winning team, apart from the addition of Tielemans.
It is. Yeah. Which you can understand why he's gone for it, but training this morning, if he turned up, might have been interesting.
Yeah, I mean, having said that, he can, if you pick the best season that all of those players have had and all the current players have had, it's easy.
It is an easy choice, really, isn't it? And as you can understand.
And I know you said at the top we're going to pick our version, but I think what we're going to pick is an alternative.
Yes.
I think pretty much. You and I would probably pick something very similar to what Vardy has picked. Yeah. In all honesty.
What's this wee shit?
I think it's a new console from Nintendo.
Oh, is it? I used to love the Wii. That was my favourite. But no, you were going to possibly suggest some alternatives, and we're not saying that these were particularly players that we would prefer, because like I say, when you look at this team, you're thinking, oh my God, if only that was what was starting against Wolves on Saturday. So it's going to be hard. But look, in goal, Schmeichel. I mean, you've got to think as well that this isn't the best Leicester 11 of all time in Jamie's eyes. It's the best team he's played with, because we have had some great goalkeepers down the years. We've had a few ropey ones as well. But funny enough, I was dreaming about this last night, and I dreamt that Schmeichel came back to Leicester.
Well, he said that he would. He doesn't think his story with Leicester is over, so watch this.
Do you think if Mads Hermansen, and I think he'll leave in the summer, he may well go to Chelsea. If not, and when he's the player we're probably going to make the biggest profit on, let's be honest with you, and we will need that money, I feel. Whether, Celtic would let him go or not is another matter. Would you have him back?
No, I don't think so, to be honest, because, that team is such a great team. You don't really want to tarnish the memory of it. And in the last season, Schmeichel was here. He was making a few mistakes, and there were certain criticisms coming in. And I'd much rather remember these players at their peak as they were.
Yes.
It'd be interesting. As I said, I thought it was interesting when Schmeichel did that interview, probably 18 months ago now, saying that he didn't think his story with Leicester City was over. Now, what capacity he thinks he may come back in is another matter. But, you couldn't do, worse. There'd be worse things than bringing back some of these players in a coaching capacity like Andy King has. If they want to go into coaching, obviously some don't. But it'd be interesting to see how he sees his future and what he's planning to do. He may decide he's going to go out on a high, winning the title at Celtic, and they've had a decent run in Europe this year. So, but we'll see.
I mean, we've got to be careful that we don't look at Schmeichel at the moment and go, oh, what a fantastic keeper he is. Because, look, no disrespect to anybody north of the border that's watching this. It's not the same class. And we know, we've had the Craig Levein years and the Scottish contingent coming down. Yes, there are obviously exceptions, but being and winning the title with Scotland does not make you a good player in my eyes.
No, and let's not forget that over the past sort of 12, 14 weeks, we've made some very average keepers look very good.
Yes, that is very true. Anybody there? I mean, I know you're probably dying to say Danny Ward, but anybody there that...
No, what I've got is an alternative in every position.
Oh, okay. Okay. I wasn't expecting that.
I've done my work, Chris.
Nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition.
I've got different options in each position, and then I've decided which of those options I would go with.
Okay,
if we were doing an alternative team,
right?
And also because it's interesting, I went on Transfer Market website, and you can filter it down there on Jame Vardy and all the players he's played with in every position.
Wow.
Plus, there's some other details in there which will form the basis of the little quiz I've got for you and anyone else who's watching at the end.
I'm going to need help with that, everybody. I'm going to need help with that. Now, I don't want to jump on. Excuse me a second. Oh, God. Excuse me. I'll try and mute myself and try and cough when I'm not talking. I'm not going to sort of say any names or anything before that, because that, might, ruin it for you. So first thing is, who's your alternative?
Well, the only one of all the ones he's played with, the only one that you could hold, and put any reasonable argument behind would be the current goalkeeper, Mads Hermansen. Yeah. I don't think there's been anyone strong enough in between. Stolarczyk may turn out to be, when he gets back in the sticks next season, because I expect Hermansen to go. But out of all the others there, then, there's no one comes anywhere near to Schmeichel other than Hermansen.
I mean, I'm with you. I mean, I was talking last night to Jack from the Final Whistle, and do ever go over there and check him out. So it's a good Leicester channel. And I remember I said to him, if if we go out in this window and buy another goalkeeper, I am personally going to fly to Thailand and bomb the King Power headquarters. Can I just say, in just case anybody does bomb the King Power headquarters, I am joking. But we do not need any more bloody goalkeepers because Stolarczyk has proved that he's a good standing keeper. And if he moves up to the number one, I think we keep hold of Iverson and he becomes the number two.
I mean, the fact is that Iverson, whichever way we want to say it, is, I understand, he's out of contract.
He is.
I can't imagine him signing to be someone else's number two now. He's at the stage he needs to be playing. Yes, if he was under contract, I would have no problem with him being a number two because I think he's a decent keeper. And we don't know who the manager is. God forbid, we may have a manager who doesn't want to play out from the back. And therefore, it just comes out to whether you're a good shot stopper or not. You know, if we get Sean Dyche in, I don't think he cares who's the best with his feet in goal. So it would be a different debate.
But wasn't Iverson there before we went down that road?
Yeah, he was, but he's never getting in ahead of Schmeichel, is he? So he's always been there. But when it came to managers who wanted players to play out from the back, because I know, you know, Rodgers had Schmeichel in. So he was never getting in ahead of him. And then when Maresca came in, had a look at who he'd got, he thought, okay, you know, I want to bring in someone who's even better. But if it's Dyche, what I'm trying to say is Dyche is not going to put Iverson and Stolarczyk out on a training pitch and say, right, who can ping a 40-yard ball? He's going to say, who can come for a cross, who can block a shot?
No, I 100% agree with what you're saying there. I just think that if Iverson would be welcome, you know, happy to sign another contract, you know, then rather than spend, look, we spent £12 million on Ward. So rather than going out and spending 12, 15, and we might get another Mads Manson, but rather than go out and doing that, when we've got the two goalkeepers there, that would be my question.
I agree. If he's happy to be a number two or put pressure on, then you know, he's a decent keeper.
And of course, you've also with that guy there, Schmeichel. Look, we've had some good goalkeepers, haven't we? We've had Gordon Banks, we've had Peter Shilton. I think for me, and I grew up in the Peter Shilton era, as I know you did as well. But Schmeichel, for me, is probably our all-time number one.
Probably I don't recall seeing Shilton play, to be honest. I may have caught the end of him.
You're a little bit younger than me.
Yeah, Mark Wallington was the one when I was
growing up. Yeah, we all remember Mark Wallington.
He was a great keeper in his own right. You know, what a physique.
It was his full head of hair that I loved.
Yeah. But no, I think for the longevity, again, you know, we didn't have Shilton or Banks long enough, really.
No.
You know, before they moved on. So I think Schmeichel will probably go. I don't know. Even then, I'm not sure. That's some gloves to fill, isn't it? Banks, Shilton, and then Schmeichel.
It is. That could be another show where we have to pick the number ones. But have we done that? I think we might have done that. And I think that was the problem. One of the problems for Danny Ward, and I'm not making excuses for him, but he never got to play a Premier League game because that guy never got injured, and he was so good.
Yeah.
But let's have a look then at the left back. Well, yet again, Christian Fuchs, what a hero!
And again, it's interesting looking at the stats of sometimes how few. I know players have played out of position, so they're filled in at left back.
Yeah,
but in actual left backs, Vardy's only played with 7 during his 13 years.
Okay,
which is the same as right back as well. He's only played with 7 different fullbacks who are proper fullbacks. And to be honest, left back's the hardest one to find anyone who could even challenge him. The only one I would put in at his best would be Chilwell. Whatever he did, we're not talking about how he left or whatever, but when he was playing well, you know, let's not forget it's an England fullback. You know, I think Chilwell was Was and probably still is a very good left back, but he's the only one who would come anywhere near. But he would still be on the bench behind Fuchs.
Well, it's been a lovely show. It's a bit short. Thank you, everybody. Good night and God bless.
There is literally virtually no one else worth even having a chat about from left back. You know, if you're talking about our current, left backs, Christensen and Thomas, Christensen, Thomas, Fuchs and Chilwell, there's 4 out of the 7 that Vardy's played with.
Yeah.
There's not a lot.
I'm trying to think who are the others.
Yeah. I can't remember even off the top of my head.
It's a quiz question for later, one of the two. But no, I agree with you. Look, we like to hate a player here, without phase, as Leicester fans.
Wait till the centre halves.
Sorry?
Wait till the centre halves.
I know. But he was an England, left back. He went on to play. He didn't do a Drinkwater. He's not done a Kieran Dewsbury Hall. He went to Chelsea and he played regularly for Chelsea. I never got the hate for him. No. I really, really didn't.
I think it was more after he went, wasn't it? And some ill-advised comments, I think. But I don't think anybody really. We sang he's one of our own. For many, many years. So
yes. That's football fans for you. We're not fickle at all, are we? Right, centre-backs, 2 of them. The first one.
Right. I've got... Again...
Or do you want to do them both together, the centre-backs?
Yeah, do them both together.
Okay. So we've got Mr. Huth and Mr. Morgan. See,
these two probably were at their peak when they were together. And it's like... Going back, you've already mentioned how old we are, Chris. Yeah. Old strike partners when there used to be 2s. Sutton and Shearer. All that kind of malarkey. Toshak and Keegan going back. It's the same with centre halves. If you get a good partnership, then it's fantastic because everything works together. It's like they're an old table football pair. They're on a stick and they move together.
Yes.
And, the Arsenal ones, Adams and Bold, and then Adams and Keown. So these 2 were great together. The 2 that I've come up with, the only other ones worth a mention, Evans, that I never really got, on board with. But, I'd have probably taken him this season, that's for sure. And when he was playing well, which wasn't, offering enough, was Soyuncu. But the partnership I would put up against these 2 is Maguire and Fofana.
He's really going for the popularity vote this evening, folks, isn't he?
Again, at their best, 2 really, really good, strong centre halves. Who
I agree with you again. Look, you know my feelings towards Fofana.
Yeah, I think we all share.
My gypsy's curse on him to break a leg when he went to Chelsea worked. Don't upset me, Craig. Don't upset me. But he was amazing when he played for us.
Yeah, he was. You don't get an £80 million transfer tax. Well, no. Either of them.
Exactly.
If you're playing one at the club you're at.
When you think there's £160 million there in Maguire and Fofana. Makes you wonder why we're in financial trouble, really, doesn't it? But what amazed me about Fofana was that he came in and with Soyuncu, and that's another good shout, to be honest with you. I mean, if we were doing, biggest cocks, then probably Soyuncu would definitely be in there, according to the song. But Soyuncu had a year, didn't he, before Maguire left, when he got used to the team. Fofana was thrown straight in it. Yeah. And, duck water, tuk to, springs to mind. And as much as it hurts me to say, and Brad, if you're watching, don't hold this against me, please. Because he feels like about Fofana the way I feel about Faze. But two good choices there. Would I have them over Huth and Morgan? I have to say, and it's my turn to upset everybody, I couldn't not have Huth in because we saw the difference he made when he came in on that first loan spell. Morgan, of course, I mean, he's fantastic. I just kind of remember another player that possibly went on a little bit too long. So that, for me, at the end of his career, he was kind of maybe making the mistakes or not quite in the right. But look, I'm being picky there, so I can understand Morgan and Huth, and that's certainly two good shouts from you, for Maguire and Fofana. Like you say, where has the money gone to? That is the question.
Yeah.
I heard he has a massive hen. Yes. No VK at left back, says Ant, and Danny Ward in goal. This is why I didn't invite you on, Ant, because I knew the team that you would pick would be a relegation threatened team. I mean, that's it. That sums it up, Ant, 100%. Whereas Morgan was fantastic. Just that last season, it was clear he was done. Yeah, I would agree that's basically what I was very, very, very badly trying to say. Right. Now, let me just say that if you go for James Justin in this position, Craig, that I am personally going to kick you out of the show. But Danny Simpson at right back.
I think Danny Simpson was the unsung hero of that team. I think, I used to, I remember having great debates with my boss at work, who's a Liverpool fan, who's loving it at the moment, obviously. Yeah. And he was like, when we were going through all this, he would often go on about Simpson. Yeah, he's not good. He was fantastic that season. I've never seen any fullback defend his back post as well as Danny Simpson did that season. Yeah. And let's not forget, he didn't start the season. Richard Delat had the shirt. And then what you realise, and again, great management by Ranieri, you don't need an attacking overlapping fullback such as Richie Delat when you've got Mahrez in front of you. Just get the ball to Mahrez. So he concentrated on having someone who was a solid defender, and Simpson was just that. He was fantastic. And the number of times he got in at the back post and just clipped balls away, got his header on things, he was great. That whole back four was great, to be fair.
It was. I can understand that being chosen. Sorry for going off camera. I've been doing that a couple of times because I didn't want you to see me sat here using the tissue. Excuse me. Right, who is your alternative right back?
Well, I've mentioned Richie Delat, but there's only two really who come into the conversation. And if you're looking for attacking fullbacks, then they would probably get in over Simpson, And they are Ricardo, and Castagna. And I liked Tim Castagna. I thought he was a really, really good signing. Again, not a lot of money, but was solid. Yeah, he had the odd mistake in him, but, he got forward, he got goals. For an attacking fullback, I think those two were fantastic, Ricardo and Pereira. I would edge and give it to Ricardo, just because I think he's a classy footballer. Wherever you put him on the pitch, I think he's a class performer. But I thought I really liked Castagna, and it's interesting now that he didn't start in the team at Fulham, but he's managed to force his way in there and has become a starter. But both of those good fullbacks, I think, really solid fullbacks, Castagna and Ricardo. But when you're playing that formation with those players, and I can't argue against Danny Simpson being better.
And I mean, you said he didn't start, and I was a big fan of Delat.
Yeah.
Although it's funny, you tend to remember, like with Mes Morgan, and I'm going to come on with Castagna as well. And this is why I was worried about Jame Vardy, although I do think he transcends that, is that you remember the end rather than what came before. And to me, that last season again for Castagna, it was getting drawn into the middle so much and people running down the side. But yes, Ricardo, 100%. I probably could possibly even edge it over Simpson for Ricardo, but I know where you're coming from with what you've said about Danny Simpson. Let's have a look here. Ant says Ricky P, so he agrees with you. Simpson gave Morris the freedom to get forward as much as he did. Craig says Delat. I'm blowing again, apparently. Well, at least I'm not sucking. Wasn't a big fan of Castagna, says Ant. Ricardo, definitely for me. Now, Ronald says the midfield is going to be tricky. Delat was a defensive liability, but good going forward. Wasn't Morris for a while as well, though. But we will come on. We will move on to different players. So let's go across that three in front of the back four, and we start with Yuri Tielemans. Again, a player that I probably forget the good that he did because of how it ended at the club. Yeah. But when he was on song, my God, there was nobody to touch him, was there?
No, you know what he was like, Chris? He was like a quarterback. That's what he was.
I thought you might say that somehow, yes. I know the other thing I thought you might say was a quarter pounder, but no, he's a good quarterback, which I think most clubs could do with.
He is. And we're seeing it now for Villa. You know, he took time getting in there, I think, getting his fitness back, forcing his way in, but you know, he's been fantastic this season, and we're seeing, sadly, you know, what we lost. You know, just a fantastic footballer and intelligent, and that makes such a difference. You know, he's not the fittest guy, but he's one of the most intelligent footballers we've seen down here for a long time.
Yes, yeah. I mean, I remember you saying, "Did you?" Oh no, it wasn't Tielemans. That was somebody else. It was the hill that Brendan would die on.
Yes, maybe we'll come to him.
Maybe we will. But no, again, you know, putting aside like with Fofana, the way that they left. Look, for one goal on its own, you know, we will love this guy forever and ever and ever.
Exactly. Do you want to just finish the midfield, and then I'll talk about the three that I've got in?
Yeah, not a problem. Well. Kante. My God. I mean, he was only with us that one season, as we know.
Yeah.
And I can understand Jamie picking him here. What a player. Yeah. It's a shame that he left. It's a shame that he went on. But again, we made money on him. If you name your top 5 Leicester players of all time, surely you would have, well, let's say top 10 in fairness, surely he would be in there.
Oh, it's just sensational, you know, and again, hats off to Ranieri. Kante did not start that season. You know, that was Gökhan Inler who was in there at the start of the season, who couldn't get to grips with the pace of the game. Dropped Kante in there, and the rest, as they say, is history. And and obviously, it's always nice to remind ourselves of that great quote from Steve Walsh, the scout, about how they set up the midfield during that season. We said we just had Danny Drinkwater in the middle and played Kante either side of him. Yes.
And was it Ranieri who said one day he will pass the ball forward and be on the end of it?
Yeah, it's just phenomenal. I mean, and it was his reading of the game. You know, the way he read it. Again, we're talking about Tielemans being an intelligent footballer, but Kante just read where people were going to turn, and they'd just turn into him. He'd be there. You could drop a shoulder to go right, and he's there, and then you go left, and he's still there.
Yes.
And you know, he knew the times to go with the ball, and he knew the times to offload it to someone else. Again, just intelligent, unassuming guy, never really got into trouble. You know, not one of those biting at people's ankles and getting booked every week. He was just such a clean tackler, you know, and just a fantastic player.
I mean, I have to say, look, I have to say something because it's completely gone out of my mind what I had to say. That's my age, I think. I was going to say something. Oh, yeah. The thing with this team as we go through it, I mean, you know, there's a couple in there like Tielemans that were in that winning Premier League winning side. But that Premier League winning side, with no injuries and no suspensions, you knew what that starting 11 was going to be. And all right, so you can say, well, the opposition would know what we were going to do, etc., etc. But more importantly, they knew what they were going to do. Kante knew that if he played the ball onto the right, that Mahrez would get onto it. Mahrez knew if he played it up forward, where Jame Vardy was going to be. Swapping and changing the team week in, week out, Rude, you don't get that, do you?
No, sadly not. I mean, it's difficult when you are trying to find a team that works, because none of them did. With this team, when the right part was dropped in, it all just clicked, didn't it? Yes. And then that was it.
Yes. Right. Danny Drinkwater.
Again, another, I think, very underrated during that season, like Simpson, because he, as much as Kante drew the headlines, Drinkwater was the engine room just as much, I think. And in terms of his attitude of driving the players on, he was a winner. And I think that's, that kind of attitude has got him into trouble going forward, in the rest of his career, sadly. That there was like an unassuming aggression in him, a will to win. And another one who's come out of that Man United factory of players that we picked up. And such again, just a guy who knew his limitations.
Yes.
He could put a tackle in, but then he knew if the ball was played to him under certain circumstances, he didn't need to take another touch. He would just clip it over the top, and he knew Vardy or Mahrez would be running, and just played within himself. Didn't try to be anything he wasn't, and just fit in. And he was like the aggressive bigger brother to Kante.
Do you think that he was? If I said, and it would be people of our generation here, what's the first thing you think of if you hear the name Roger Hunt?
Yeah, rhyming slang.
Yeah. But he was also Jeff Hurst's partner.
Yeah.
In the World Cup finals.
He was.
You know, but he was the unsung hero. It was like that with Gary Lineker and Peter Beardsley.
Yeah. There's always like a foil.
There's always a player that doesn't get the attention or the necessarily the plaudits that they deserve for what they do, because they just do it and get on with it. Yeah. And I think that's probably Drinkwater, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And again, he got a big money move on the back of it, based on what he did this season. None of these were poor players. We picked them up out of, when you look at where these players came from, it makes the story even more ridiculous, to be honest. Yes. Schmeichel had been, bobbing around from club to club to club to club. He'd gone so far down, hadn't found a home.
Wasn't he?
Yeah, and Fuchs, who'd heard of him? Who'd heard of Fuchs? Simpson had been thrown out, I think, by Manu and a couple of others. Morgan had been here a while. Huth was no longer needed at Stoke. Kante, no one had heard of. Yeah. These were just shows you that there is talent out there if you get your scouting right.
Charity Shop City. That's who we were that season. Yeah. Right. So those are the three that Jamie picked to sit in front of the four. You're going to have a difficult job here, mate. But who are the ones that you're thinking of? That not that would replace them, but as we say, that could be.
To pick a three here is
honourable
difficult.
mentions. Let's call them honourable mentions.
Yeah, really, when I looked down who was in there, really there was only four names that sprung out, and one of them has to miss out. And again, it may upset a few people. And the players I've picked here are the players playing at their peak and the best of their powers. So not necessarily.
I think we are with all of these. I think Jamie is as well, isn't he? Yeah.
But sadly, the one who's going to miss out is Andy King.
Yeah.
Just because I think the three others offer a little bit more in every area. But King, again, what a great servant, and lovely to see him come back.
Yes.
You'd like to think that his influence, is coming through in the last couple of performances.
Future manager, possibly.
Potentially. Again, it depends whether what he wants. He I would not have been surprised if Rude had been given the bullet and Andy King had it to the end of the season. That would not have surprised me at all, to be honest. But I think, again, Rude does some weird things that you think, okay, well, I quite like that. The fact that he's given these kids the debut, the fact that he brought King out of looking after the kids and brought him forward to facilitate that, to help with that transition from the kids. There are some good things going on. It's just been a shocking season. But that's for another show or three. So Andy King's the one to miss out. So I'm just going to give you the three, and then we can talk about them individually if you want. So the three to go up against these are Ndidi, again, at his peak.
Mm-hmm.
James Maddison.
Mm-hmm.
And Esteban Cambiasso.
I think if Cambiasso, let's go to Cambiasso first. What a good three choices. And I do kind of get, and I'm sorry, Andy King, I love you to bits. I met you at Bournemouth that time in that game, and you were a gentleman and a scholar, and I will always admire you. But when you're up against those three, it's probably the one that would miss out. So we'll go straight to Cambiasso. Mm-hmm. I cannot believe, I don't believe it, that I sat at my football club's stadium and watched a player of Cambiasso's ability wearing a Leicester City shirt.
Yeah.
Now, even though he was, you could say, he wasn't past his prime, I don't think. He was, but he'd peaked maybe before he'd come to us. Yeah. But the way he was at that time was still head and shoulders above a lot of the other players in the Premier League.
Yeah.
And I think it was the signing that shocked the Premier League. Certainly shocked me, I'll tell you. But doesn't that show the other side to Nigel Pearson? Because Nigel Pearson had been talking to him and kept in contact with him, a bit like Alex Ferguson used to do as well. Drip, feed. And that's why Cambiasso came to us. I wish he'd stayed another season, but then, who knows, it might not have worked out the way it did. But when you look at what he achieved in his career, the fact that he had one season with us, I think we were blessed to have that season, to be honest with you. I think also as well, he always speaks so highly of Leicester. When we won the Premier League, he was one of the first to, tweet congratulations. And when we got promoted, he's still doing it now. And that is the sign of not just a good footballer, that's a sign of a gentleman, And there's not many of those in football these days.
Yeah.
Maddison, I love James Maddison. Look, you see his number 10 shirt there on the wall. It's signed. Yeah. I actually didn't buy that until about 2 months before he left. But, I think Tottenham are probably ruining his career. Where have we heard that before? But in the Leicester side, all right, look, again, who knows if he hadn't missed that penalty against Everton? Would things have been different? I mean, it's ifs, buts and maybes, isn't it? But when he was on form, my God, he could. I mean, I remember being at the 9-0 Southampton game. And I think he got the 8th one, didn't he, with the free kick?
Yeah. Yes, he did, yeah.
7th or 8th, anyway, yeah. And I was sat at the other end, obviously, in the home fan, and I turned to my son and said, it's a free kick. Madison's taking it. I went, he's going to put that top left or top right, whichever way. I think it was top left he went, wasn't it? I think. Because he took it from the right. Yeah. And I said, he's going to place it top left. Yeah. And he did. We are missing a good dead ball taker at the moment, aren't we?
Yeah.
And his skill, and again, when you look at what they do off the pitch, I just think if we could get him back tomorrow, I'd bite your hand off for him.
Yeah.
I really would. Indeedy, look, as with a lot of footballers, for me, he wasn't quite as good when he came back from his long-term injury. But then, look, that's not his fault, really, is it? That said, he was reborn under Enzo.
It was in a different guise, yeah.
But this is a sign of a good manager. Just if you're listening, Rude, get your notebook out and write this down. The sign of a good manager is seeing something in a player that even the player doesn't know himself. How many times have we seen strikers drop back into really good midfielder roles? And I think Enzo looked at Ndidi and went, he can do that role for me. And my God, did he do it well. I used to see Fatawu would ping that ball down the right wing and you think, there's nobody there. What's he done? And suddenly, like Casey Jones and his, whatever it was, Express, steaming through, comes Wilf to get the ball and put a cross in and bang, it's a goal. I think you've chosen, and I can't think of who else you might not have put in there, but for me, I think you've got 3 excellent choices there, sir.
Yeah, I think it's nicely balanced. I think Ndidi at his best, had every club in Europe after him,
Yes.
And Cambiasso was just, again, it was like a Rolls Royce. And I was thinking exactly the same Mancini when he came. Sadly, Mancini got offered the managerial job and left, so he wasn't with us very long. I remember a quote that Robbie Savage put out there about Mancini, about what a classy player he was. And he said he used to turn up before the game in his Armani suit, and then he'd go out and play as if he was still wearing it.
Oh, true that. I mean, we didn't see enough of him. He was probably glad when he looks back, because it was Peter Taylor that signed him. Yeah. He was probably glad that he didn't stay,
True.
But
True. Just on Cambiasso, again, I did have a look and see where he was, what he was doing, what he's coaching. I think he's been getting his coaching badges, but he's not been affiliated to any club at the moment. But another guy that I would love to see back at some point in some either coaching or managerial capacity, because I watched, there was a program on the other night about Sky have been running this thing about, how to win the Champions League. And this time it was about Mourinho and his time at Inter Milan and how he put that team together. And obviously Cambiasso was an integral part of that team, Champions League winner, when, they weren't the most fancied side in that competition by any means. But Cambiasso, class act, and I could imagine him making a really good manager going forward.
There was rumours, wasn't it? Well, not rumours, but a lot of fans wanted him when we got Enzo. They wanted him to be the number 2. And look, he's not going to come back to us, obviously, in the Championship. Well, you don't know. Say he's not going to come back to us in the Championship.
You've got to start somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. I watched something the other day, just to sidetrack a minute. You've taken me down this wormhole now, so I'm going to have to follow it. It wasn't on Sky, but I was watching something about... it might have been, because I think it was on YouTube. I think it was one of my famous YouTube 3am holes that I was disappearing down. And you don't want to know about those. And it was talking about Pep Guardiola and Jose Mourinho. And we're talking about the Champions League. And for some reason, Jose Mourinho had fallen out with Pep Guardiola. So Pep Guardiola was like ticky-tacky, short passes, and Jose Mourinho went off and said, "Sod that, I'm not going to play that way, I'm going to play completely the opposite." And then they met. Pep's Barcelona met, I think, Jose's Inter, I think, in the semi-final of one of the Champions Leagues.
It was.
Yeah. And Jose won it.
And he was down to 10 men for a long period in that game as well. Yeah. Wow. The new camp. But yeah, it was just literally that competition was a masterclass from Mourinho of just getting the results that you needed to get through.
Yes.
Unbelievable.
Yes. Come to us, Jose. I'd have you. Right. Do you want to do the next 2 together as well?
Well, yeah, I've just got 3 forwards. I mean, but let's do the 2. Yeah.
Let's do the 3 because we know the third one's going to be. So
yeah. See, I've replaced Vardy. He would be there, but I've come up with an alternative to him. So I've got a front 3 the same way that he has. So
let's do the 3 then. So we've got Mahrez in there, which look, again, let's take out how he left, because that's unfortunately so many of these players have left us with bad taste in their mouth. That's the only the thing. Sat at Paris airport in case his agent rang him. But he gave us that extra year in the Champions League. Would we have got to the quarterfinals of the Champions League without him? I would probably say I doubt it. But he did give us that year, which was a year longer than Kante. The argument could then be that we then reneged on the deal that we made him. We will never know. Albrighton. Okay, I was talking, funny enough, on last night's show, I had Ian Stringer. Do you remember Ian Stringer?
Oh, yeah.
It was lovely to see him again, doing well. Very thank you, Ian, if you're watching, for coming on last night. Great insight into Jame Vardy, because he'd grown up reporting on Leicester while Jame Vardy was there. And I said, was Jame Vardy the best £1 million player ever signed? And, or was it the best £1 million ever spent? And he went, well, you're looking at value, Albrighton was a freebie.
Yeah.
And then Jame Vardy, in a move that kind of reminds me of you, Craig, he picked himself. And now I know you have played at the King Power, and I know you have scored goals at the King Power, but I don't think you're necessarily going to put yourself up front there. But my God, I think, to be honest with you, even if we had those three now with that manager and this system, I don't think we could score goals. But what a three. What a three.
Oh, again, just fantastic. Albrighton is like the antithesis to Mahrez, isn't he? He's all work rate. He's all just doing the basics, but giving you a 7 out of 10 every game.
Yeah.
And then Mahrez, just genius, absolute genius. One of the best players I've ever seen play down here. And I've seen, Ronaldo and Ronaldinho and God knows what play down here at different times. And but Mahrez on his day was just phenomenal. Again, they showed watching the Jame's 20 best goals last night. The hat trick that he scored against Man City down here.
Funny again how all these videos came out so quickly.
I know, but the touch, I think it was for his second goal, for Jame's second goal. The like 50-yard ball that he just caressed into his path. Just unbelievable. What a player.
Yes.
Just you couldn't. There's no player that we've ever had that could not. Could get ahead of Mahrez in that team. And say the same about Jame,
Yeah.
The guy, and I really liked his hoodie that he was wearing the other night.
I did actually, yes.
But yeah, I mean, just phenomenal, isn't it? When you think, and I was down there watching him when he first came. The only player wearing his black boots. He looked like he was wearing his school shoes. He just. You would never, ever believe. Well, for him and the guy that he sat next to on the bench, Harry Kane, there's no way you would say the careers that those two players would go on to have at that time. And it just shows you that, much more fated youngsters come through the system and then disappear within a couple of seasons. And these two, just fantastic. Obviously, Jame's not a kid at the time, but I mean, what a signing! What a pick! For $1 million to make the splurge at the time. There were a couple of other clubs, but we got him, and just talk about repayment on that $1 million.
I said to Jack last night. I said, "Were you shocked when we paid £1 million?" I mean, I know Fleetwood at that point had got promoted. And it's interesting to see that he's making a lot of apologies to Wrexham fans over what he was saying about them when he was at Fleetwood. Read into that what you will. But £1 million, although they had got promoted, they hadn't started the season, so technically they were still a conference side.
Yeah.
£1 million, the most expensive conference player, whatever it's called these days, conference player ever, £1 million. For a club like Leicester, when you say maybe $1 million wasn't that much, but for a conference player, for a club like it was a huge gamble. But look how many of those gambles paid off.
Yeah, again, we had some great talent spotters, in the club back then, and That's probably the, Vardy, Mahrez, and Kante. Talk about just picking up gems that no one had ever heard of. Just unbelievable.
I mean, they say, don't they, about the spine of a team.
Yeah.
When you look at the spine of that team, Schmeichel, and you could go either way there, but I'm going to go to Huth to Kante, Kante to Mahrez, Mahrez to Vardy. What a spine that was.
Yeah, I mean, just unbelievable. You just keep Huth off free kicks, and you can't go wrong.
Don't make me laugh. It hurts when I cough. Just to say that if anybody is interested, if you go on to the Leicester Till I Die Facebook page, or Facebook group, I should say, it's a group, not a page. The gentleman called Ed Bland is a friend. I've known him for a while. He's doing this season's top special edition Jame Vardy number 9 shirt. It's got 9 the goat logo on the front and a special number 9 on his name on the back. I'm not sure of the costs. You'd have to contact him, but there is a post in the group if you fancied a shirt to remember him by. When we signed Mahrez, I was thinking, oh great, Mahrez on one side, Knockout on the other.
Yeah.
And that didn't last well. It was about one season it lasted, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Knockout shot his own foot. But Brighton. Look, he's a Villa fan. That was his club. It must have hurt him to leave. But what a workhorse.
Yeah.
He gave it his 100%. There's a few players that, when they come onto the pitch, get the crowd going.
Mm.
And even, when we were loaning him out, was it last season we loaned him out? I think he could have still done a job for us as that super sub type player then. But he gave the crowd such a lift, didn't he?
He did, because you knew what you get from him. There was never any question that he wouldn't work hard. Sometimes obviously he'd have better games than others, but you knew exactly what you were going to get from Brighton. He'd be up and down there, could play as a wing back, as a fill-in right back. But when he got the ball forward, you know that you're going to get quality from him.
And his crosses. His crosses, and I've been we've all been, we all watch Leicester City videos, don't we? And unfortunately, Slimani wasn't with us long, but the crosses that he used to put in for Slimani's goals.
Yeah.
He should have played for England more than... Well, he didn't. Did he? I don't think he did for the senior side. He should have played. But, right. Well, those are the 3 that Jamie picked. Interesting to see who you are going to go for. Give me the 2 behind Jamie, first of all.
So the options. So I've got one on the right and I've got one on the left. The options on the right, again, well, they're all limited, really. Yeah. I've decided to play someone slightly out of position, but so Knockout.
Oh, you rude from Little, you.
Knockout was an option. Obviously, again on his day, a fantastic player. An enigma, shall we say?
Yes.
I'm just gutted that Abdul's been injured for so much of this season as well. Yeah. Because I think I really hope that. We've seen it too many times that players don't come back from a long-term injury. I really, really hope that Abdul does, because he could have been an option down that right.
Yeah.
But I decided to go with Iheanacho just to get some more goals in there. He has played over there on that side, and we played, that period where he played up front with Jamie. He was coming off that side quite a lot, off the right-hand side, because he likes to cut in on his left foot. But again, Iheanacho's a kind of an enigma, isn't he? On his day, he's just fantastic. That just shifting the ball, very little back swing, and then just bang. And I think him and Vardy played really well together for that short period where we were playing 2 up front.
I hate this. I can't stop agreeing with you. He did, and I think the problem with Iheanacho was that we didn't play 2 up front. Because that season, Vardy had been injured, and when he came back, I think Brendan Rodgers played them for a couple of games, and it was working so well that he couldn't then not play them. Yeah. And that season, Iheanacho was actually our top scorer.
Yeah. Yeah, a really classy player. Again, in and out with a few injuries and managers fancying him, but not really knowing where to play him. He's not an out-and-out striker, not an out-and-out winger, could play in the hole sometimes. But again, I found him as an intelligent player, very much alongside the much maligned Jose Perez, who I thought got a rough pummeling from a lot of the Leicester fans. But in terms of what we've got options, I thought Iheanacho on the right.
Yeah.
Down the left, obviously Mahrez, irreplaceable. No one's getting anywhere near. It's the proverbial not fit to lace his boots kind of thing. But when I looked at the players, there was only two options really for me in terms of who Jamie had played with. The runner-up, there was Lloyd Dyer.
Mm-hmm.
Who again, for many years was a fantastic foil. I think Lloyd Dyer chipped in with a lot of goals. Yeah. Very direct.
Got the goal that got us promoted.
Exactly. Really direct. Just wanted to get the ball out of his feet and go forward. We've seen that with Mavadidi, and sad that he's injured for the rest of the season now. But when you got those players, they get you up the pitch quick, and that's the thing, that you're not sat in, giving the ball over. You've got players who can carry the ball up the pitch. So Lloyd Dyer, I think, was quite underrated, and I thought he was good. But the position goes to Harvey Barnes. As much as I, again, maligned him down the years because of his output, because I thought he was capable of so much more. We're seeing it at Newcastle again. He's managed to get in ahead of Gordon when Gordon got injured and suspended, and he's taken his chance, and he's looking like the player that we knew he could be and was for very often for us, but just not often enough. But on his day, again, Harvey Barnes was a fantastic left winger for us.
So you think Harvey Barnes has come down that hill now, do you?
I think so.
Barnes, excuse me. Barnes, you could argue, saved club well at the end of that season, because obviously he went, the season before he went, because Dwell brought him back and he kind of changed our team. Yeah. Again, Chilwell-esque in that people, maligned him, and I don't know why. One season it was all, well, he never shoots. He's trying to do too many. He's doing one, he's doing two. He should shoot. And then the same people the next season, he always bloody shoots. There's a pass on there. Why didn't he pass? Yeah. I mean, football fans. You know what I mean? I like Harvey Barnes. And you know what? He's one of those players. I'd put him in with Barnes, Maddison, Dewsbury Hall. Mm. They've moved on, but they didn't want to go.
No.
They went, all right, when a club like Newcastle comes in for you, or Chelsea, you got to say, I'm sorry, even if you're a Leicester lad, you got to think, who's going to bring me the more success? No. And, but none of them kicked up a fuss. None of them were going, I'm not going to play if you don't put me on the list. I'm going to go and sit at Castle Donington Airport and wait for the transfer window to start. But it all helped us financially.
Yeah.
So Barnes, I mean, I liked Lloyd Dyer. I think it was a shame that we never got to see him play in the Premier League. And I think he probably regrets that looking back. I think we offered him a 1 year and he wanted a minimum of 2. I think he would have caused problems had he stayed. And I think that's probably one of the things he may regret.
I think so. And you've got to build a squad. Even if he wasn't a starter, he would have been a great impact sub.
Yes, exactly. And then if he'd been good at that, he might have got an extension. Who knows?
Exactly.
Now then, all right, this is going to be interesting.
So again, you can't replace...
For Edward, again, I'm going to kick you out.
No, there's a few options here. Personal favourites of mine, Kramaric. I mean, the one that got away.
Yeah.
Clearly, we never saw enough of him. Slimani, who I loved. If you played the right kind of football around Slimani, he would have got so many goals for us.
Yeah.
Okazaki, Vardy's sidekick.
Peter Beardsley to Jame Vardy's.
Exactly. You didn't need to set your watch. You knew when he got subbed, 60 minutes was up.
Yes.
You know, you just
Well,
run
he was
into
knackered.
around.
I remember watching Okazaki, that first game against Sunderland, and I must have told you this, but I was sat down the side of the pitch, and I turned to Sean and said, that guy is like a dog with a bone. He doesn't let anybody go. I said, he ain't going to last 90 minutes. But yes, and a lovely man on top of it.
Fantastic. Iheanacho could have been in there, obviously. The other one I'll mention here is Ajoa, who I think, again, underrated Ajoa.
Yeah.
When I look back at some of the games now, his hold-up play was phenomenal. When he stepped in when Jamie got sent off against West Ham, the way he was holding the ball up, and that penalty, the pressure on that penalty right at the end that he tucked away, his hold-up play was fantastic. And in we could have done with him, I think, under Maresca, when you're trying to build up, having somebody to hold that ball up and bring the other players in. I think he would have been great. But overall, the one who probably, again, is probably never going to be one of those players who you would think, oh, yeah, what a superstar. Not at all. But for our club, and he did play with Jamie quite a bit, for our club and what he did, I have to put in David Nugent.
I'd forgotten Nuge, yes.
Out of all of those, I think, again, just an intelligent player, but scored so many goals for us, bring players in. And he was a hard worker as well. He wouldn't give people, defenders, any time on the ball. He'd be in and around them. And again, I think an underrated player, Nugent. And if I had to pick one out of all of those, because he had a bit of everything about him. He was decent in the air. He was good on the floor. So he probably puts all of those other players' best parts into him, and I think you'd get a David Nugent.
Wow. There's some names there. Kramaric, we always joke, don't we? The one that got away. I think he possibly was. At least he was always willing to have a shot wherever it went. And if you're not having shots, you're not going to score. Yeah. But when you went on to who did you say after Kramaric? Sorry.
Then it was Okazaki.
Okazaki. I don't know if he could just be the number one striker, because the number of goals weren't there. But like I say, as a pairing, Beardsley Lineker, what a Toshak Keegan, even, for those of us of a certain age. It was and a lovely, lovely man. Ujoa, I loved Ujoa. I think, again, Ranieri shat on him from a very big height. If you believe that side of the story, there's obviously two sides. Every striker struggled because Jame Vardy they were up against. Let's be honest. But look, he was Mr. Reliable. Like you say, that first goal he got against Man United in that 5-3.
Yeah.
How the hell did he not take his head off? Boom, what a bullet. And then took the penalty at the end. Yeah. Again, like you say, the pressure. Didn't he take the penalty against Norwich that there was the earthquake?
No, he scored the goal. It was a back post. But yeah,
he was in the back post. He was, and like you say, we were going to lose because Jame Vardy wasn't in the team against Swansea. Him and Morris came up with the goods. And then, of course, David Nugent. I'd forgotten about David Nugent. I think because he was not in the Premier League. But he was. I mean, he played in the Premier League, but he was only there that first season, wasn't he?
Yeah.
What I liked about David Nugent was he accepted that he needed to take more responsibility with penalties. Because I think he said he'd never been really one of the main penalty takers, but then we needed a penalty taker, and he stood up, and I think he took all the penalties that season we got promoted.
Yeah.
Which is probably why he was our top goal scorer.
Well, he took the first one in that 5-3 against Man United.
Yes, he did. In fact, Ujoa had to take it because he was the only striker left on the pitch at the end. I've got to say some good, very, very good shouts. I hate this show because all I've done is agree with you. I'm going to disagree with you on this one, but not totally, because I understand why you went for Nugent, and I don't disagree with that. But I would have gone for Ujoa.
Yeah.
I think. And I think you would have said to me, if I was doing this, Ujoa, you wouldn't have necessarily, you could have understood where I was coming from. So I think we'll agree nicely to disagree on that one.
Yeah.
But I tell you what, so, when you look at your team, Hermanson, Chilwell, Fofana, Maguire, Ricardo, Ndidi, Madison, Cambiasso, Barnes, Iheanacho, and Nugent. That's not a bad team either, is it?
I'd take that we wouldn't be struggling this season if that was the team. Even at the ages they are now, I think we'd probably be doing better. But I think that's a pretty strong team, to be honest.
Yes, yeah. Let's just catch up with some comments. Luckman has to be in with the shout. Yes, but he wasn't really here long enough.
Longevity wasn't just here long enough.
Exactly.
Great man. And again, now he's being linked with a big move into the Premier League.
Yes, yeah. I love Nathan Dyer again.
Yeah,
I see where these players are coming from, but these fans are coming from.
Yeah.
Hi Scott, how are you doing? I miss the days of side playing two up front. Ronald, don't we just? Joke with lots of art. Thank you very much, Scott. You're a gentleman, sir. Andy King would be in mine. He got a mention. He got an honourable mention, Andy King. Nugent is a good shout. Scott says, to be fair, baffled me that Vardy closed Schmeichel after there being a bit of a love-hate relationship between the two. I didn't know that, Scott. I didn't know that. Kevin Phillips, no, I can't put Kevin Phillips in there. I'm sorry. He's not even in the short list. Good player, but not by the time he came to us. He did, I guess, one season, and that was it. I'm going to just quickly go back to this because Ronald put this up earlier. I know there's videos of Vardy's best goals for us, but one of my favourites was the goal against Germany. I think it was his debut too. I touched on this yesterday. My favourite goal of any of Jame Vardy's is the Liverpool one.
That's the one he's playing. Yeah, they're playing that a lot, aren't they?
Yes. I mean, that was just, it went over. I'd forgotten it had actually bounced once. Whoop and wow. And there's one for West Brom where it goes over again, over the top.
That's brilliant. That was goal of the season.
Yeah. It didn't even hit the floor.
One of my personal favourites was the one against Spurs where Albrighton chipped the ball over the defender and he ran onto it. He could see Lloris coming out and he just jumped and took it on the volley and just looped it over him. Fantastic finish. So much of a better finisher than he was given credit for.
100%. And that goal against Germany, I think the one you're referring to, Ronald, was where he ran across. He was wearing red, and he ran to the near post and literally backheeled it.
Yeah, he lets it come past his left foot and then flicks it in with his right behind him. He scored an identical goal in his hat-trick away at Man City.
Man City, yes, he did. He did. Yes, that was during COVID, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That was the a great goal for England. I must admit. Agreed, Chris. That was amazing. So many great players. Where did they go wrong? I don't think the players went wrong. I think the club did. And Paul Konchesky.
I like Paul Konchesky. Yeah, he was there. He was under consideration, but I don't think I don't think he'd have got in ahead of Chilwell.
No. All right, now apparently, guys, I'm going to need your help here because, funnily enough, I've been watching Celebrity Mastermind in readiness for this, and it hasn't helped me one little bit.
So, you ready for the quiz question? The quiz question is, Chris, when I went on to Transfer Market, not only did they list all the players that Jame Vardy had ever played with during his time at Leicester City, it also gave the goal involvements that he has had with all of these players.
Okay.
So, for instance, with Timothy Castagna, they'd had direct goal involvements in 4 goals between the two of them, whether that was Castagna to him to Castagna.
So assists, basically.
Yes, exactly. So they were directly involved, these 2 players. What I want you to do is give me the top 3 players out of all of those that we've mentioned tonight, Vardy and goal involvements. So direct goal involvements between Vardy
and
and
three
the
other
most
players.
he's had with the top 3 players. And I'll tell you, the ones in third is a tie between 2 players. So overall, there's 4 to choose from.
Oh, so you need 4 names. It gets worse. Right. I've got large on my screen, so I can't at this point see what anybody is commenting. Right. I'm going to go, first of all, 1, 2, 3. Mahrez has got to be in there, surely.
Mahrez is number 1.
Yeah.
22 goal involvements between the pair.
Right. That's that's a relief. I've got 1.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I'm looking at your list as well here. I'm going to go Harvey Barnes.
Harvey Barnes is joint third.
Oh, I'm doing well, everybody. 2 out of 4.
With 17.
Whoa.
To be honest, I know you are doing well, but I have given you all the answers.
Yes, and this is what I'm really. They've either got to be in that team or in your team.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go with Iheanacho.
Nope.
No. Oh, no Iheanacho. Okay. Nugent.
13 for Iheanacho.
Nugent.
Nugent is number 2 on the list.
Ooh.
With 19.
God, you forget. It's kind of, you even forget those 2 playing together. Now, I've got 2 in mind here.
Yeah.
Which probably means it's a third. Which am I going to go for? I'm going to go for Maddison.
Maddison is number 3. Yeah.
Hey! Oh, no, come on.
17. No, you've done well there.
That's not bad. In fairness, though, I've got to say, I did have all the answers, like you say, in front of me.
I thought you might have gone for Albrighton.
I think because towards the end he was subbed more than...
Albrighton got more than Iheanacho.
Really? So what number was Albrighton?
He would have been next in the list with 14 goal involvements. Some of the others, Drinkwater 10.
Thought that would have been higher.
Tielemans 8. Ricardo's more than Ndidi. Cambiasso's got 3, which I was surprised about, considering they only played that season together. Okazaki 6.
I thought Okazaki would be too obvious, to be honest with you.
Only 6.
Yeah.
So, Mahrez with 22, but Nugent with 19.
That season we came up, Nugent and Vardy played together.
Yeah.
And what a 2 they were. And that was the year, because obviously the season before it was the Don't Scratch Your Eyes season. That season we had broken loads of records, most goals, most home goals, most away goals, most goals scored going in off your arse. You know, if there's a record, excuse me, if a record to be broken, we broke it. So I'm not surprised Nugent. Had you not named Nugent in your team, I probably wouldn't have gone for him. So I've got to say, thank you for that. Let's have a look what people are saying who are guessing in the chat. Because I say I did go big so that I couldn't see it. Let's have a look. Brighton has got to be up there. Well, he was 4th. Let's be honest.
Fifth, really.
Fifth, yeah. As Azabaza, bloody hell, that's a mouthful. Hard one, that. Scott's gone Vardy, Okazaki, Vardy, Mahrez, and Vardy, Albrighton.
No, only one of them.
Yeah. And then Albrighton says Andreas, Drinkwater, maybe, says Ez. Albrighton, Mahrez, Drinkwater. Didn't they have 20 plus goals each? Quite possibly. It was an amazing season. Actually, where was Mahrez was number 1. Yeah, I mean that was a shoe-in, really, wasn't it?
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, 22.
Yes, yeah, brilliant.
Direct involvements together, yeah.
Craig, looking forward to AU and Dakota Reed masterclass tomorrow.
Oh, I hope so. No, they shouldn't play.
They shouldn't, but if I put a thing up about Mavididi being out for the season, it is only 5 games. We are relegated anyway.
It is, but he was playing. He was playing. He was playing as well as he'd played for quite a while, to be honest. Yeah. And he gave that Conor Bradley a right going over.
And it just basically sums our season up, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But look, mate, thank you so very, very much. I really enjoyed that, actually.
That was good.
And I hate you because I had to agree with you so much. Great minds, I like to think. Great minds. No, you picked some good ones there, mate. Tuesday, you'll be back with us at 7 o'clock.
I would think so.
And I'm sure we'll be doing something Vardy related again then, no doubt. Right, all the best. Is it at Craig Bird on X, Twitter, whatever you call it?
That's it, yeah, just at Craig Bird, yeah.
There's only one Craig Bird, as they say.
The original.
All the best, mate. Take care. Have a good weekend. Cheers. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. There we go. Thanks to Craig there. I must stop agreeing with him. I honestly could not believe how much we agreed on that. It just shows why he's my wise old owl. We will be back tomorrow at, and hopefully this cough may well have disappeared then. Damn thing. A week and a half I've had it now. I will get to see my granddaughter. She'll probably be 3 years older by the time I do get to see her. Thanks a lot, Craig. And we will be back, though, at 2:30, because we've actually got a Saturday 3 o'clock kickoff, believe it or not. Be back at 2:30 for the watch-along, maybe 2:15. Probably 2:15, actually. Say 2:15, because I'm sure we'll be talking a lot of Vardy pre-match as well. The sun's going down. It's not going. It's getting darker, as you can see. Thanks to everybody that was in the chat. Really do appreciate it. Everybody was joining in. If you haven't yet, please do smash the likes. Thank you, Blue means a lot, and thank you, Andreas, as well. Thank you, Scott, for your support, and thank you, everybody else. Smash those likes if you haven't. It really helps the channel. Subscribe, that helps us as well. For $1.99 a month, cheaper than half a pint, you can become a member. I'll see you all tomorrow at 2:15. Have a good night. Don't do anything I wouldn't enjoy. And thank you very much, Ronald. Appreciate that. And I will see you tomorrow. Take care, everybody. Good night.
Thanks for watching. These videos are tremendous. You'd better like them too, or I'll be back.
This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSport Fan Network.
TalkSport. Powered by fans.
That will conclude this evening's entertainment.